often asked, why the Arctic? People are puzzled by my obsession with what they think is an inhospitable place. But for me, it is like going home. I grew up with snow and ice as a kid in Buffalo, New York. Snow and ice were my playground as a child. There is something magical about the cold, snow, and ice. The Arctic has always been a place for dreamers. From Leif Erikson to Perry and Amundsen, both the Arctic and Antarctica has pulled at people. Roald Amundsen, perhaps the greatest of the polar explorers, wrote, "Snow and wind are forgotten, and one could not be happier in a royal palace." I feel the same when I am in the land of the midnight sun. The Arctic is one of our last connections to a world that is rapidly disappearing. The Arctic is sick. The sea ice is retreating, and with its retreat will come tremendous change. I am drawn to understand what this means not only for the Arctic, but for the rest of us. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, all life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. The end of the Arctic as we know it will surely change life for all of us in ways that we cannot foresee. My journey as an Arctic researcher started in Alaska. Ironically, my time in the Alaskan Arctic has been quite limited though. I've spent more time in the Scandinavian Arctic than anywhere else. But all of Alaska feels connected to the Arctic. From dog sledding on a cool December day to flying over Denali, one can feel the connections to the Arctic. It is timeless and beautiful. In Utqiagvik, one can feel the history surround you, particularly when standing on the frozen Chukchi Sea or touring the Inupiat History Center. The locals will tell you how their lives are changing faster than anyone can remember as the ice recedes. In Anchorage, it only takes a short journey by car to transport yourself back to the last ice age as you hike on the Arctic-like terrain. The connection to the past is broken by a sense of foreboding. Change is coming. The glaciers are receding, and the summer fire season is worse. Sometimes the air is choking, full of smoke. Denali, the Great One, North America's highest mountain, also bears witness to the changes as its glaciers recede. Life is more difficult for dog sledding as well. Training is harder in the warmer summer months.
There you go. Good dogs, good dogs. Good ninja up there, jumping for joy. Yeah. They'll settle down here in a minute. In the beginning, they just get so worked up crazy because they love to do this. Like, live for it. Like, this is, to these Alaskan Huskies, this is what life is all about, running. Summer or winter, they don't really care. We can do it a lot more in the winter. In the summer, we have to exercise the dogs, but we have to be careful with them too because it's warm out. If you don't want to go too far, it can be dangerous for the dog. So we just go a couple, 2-3 miles at a time in the summer.
From seaplanes to glaciers and Russian Orthodox churches, Juneau also feels connected to the past, but change is coming here as well. My friend worries that soon he will not be able to kayak to the Mendenhall Glacier as it will have receded away from its water terminus. What will these changes mean for the wildlife? What will they mean for us? Russia has also been an important part of my Arctic research journey. The Arctic is part of the Russian soul. My primary research focus has been on how the United States and its allies have cooperated with Russia in the Arctic. There has been ongoing cooperation with Russia in the Arctic since at least World War II, when supplies were ferried across the northern sea route to Russia. Russia's unique focus on the Arctic has been apparent in my conversations with Russian government officials. Of all the Arctic nations, Russia stands to benefit the most from rising temperatures. Iceland, the land of fire and ice. It is an otherworldly island, from exploring lava tubes to exploring geysers. Or chasing waterfalls. Glaciers, like Sohlankajol, a glacier that is covered in ash from a volcanic eruption. All of Iceland's glaciers are rapidly receding. In Iceland, they recently placed a memorial to one glacier that is completely melted. It read, "OK is the first glacier to lose its status as a glacier." In the next 200 years, all of our main glaciers are expected to follow the same path. This monument is to acknowledge that we know what is happening and what needs to be done. Only you know if we did it.
Goes down about this much, and that's the average throughout the year. So on a bright summer day like today, it's probably a bit more, because we have winter days that are like 0 or below 0 where it doesn't melt at all. We have measuring devices on top of this glacier, where the University of Iceland, it looks weird, I'm not sure if we can see it today, but they drilled down 15 meters into the ice and put like a metal string down into it, which froze into the glacier. And then they were going to watch it every month and see how many meters were coming up. It's a very primitive way of measuring the melting, but it worked. They put it up in May 2 years ago, and they came back in November, so 6 months or so, a few months later they came back and they were going to see how many meters of the 15 were up. In 6 months the whole device was up and had ran down the hill. So the year after, last year in May, they had 30 meters and they put it down. I haven't checked it since, so but they estimate that it's between 20 and 30 meters that the surface goes down per year. Those numbers are crazy. Yeah. The thickest part of this glacier is 300 meters. So if we think about 10 or not 10, 20 to 30 a year, we have about 10 years left of this first part of this glacier. And it's not a long time at all. And we do see like people asking, oh, you're a glacier guide, that's so cool. Do you think there's any difference on the glacier now and like 10 years ago or now and a few years ago? Like for us that come here daily, we do see differences, like small differences maybe day by day. But if we take a month off and travel and then we come back, it looks like a different place. So this is like in another planet compared to what it was like a year ago here. Because of all the texture and ups and downs and the ash moves back and forth. So it makes it very exciting for us to come here all the time. We never get bored of this. But in the big picture, it's kind of sad that it doesn't have very long left.
The Arctic is also integral in Scandinavia, particularly Norway. The Norwegians have survived and thrived in a harsh land since the Vikings. The Gjoa was used by Amundsen to be the first vessel to cross the Northwest Passage above North America. The Fram was used by Nansen's 1893 to 1896 Arctic expedition, where he nearly reached the North Pole. Later, Amundsen used the ship to be the first expedition to reach the South Pole. The sun never sets above the Arctic Circle during the summer. The farther north you go, the longer the 24 hours of light last. It was never completely dark during the month I spent in Norway, Finland, and Sweden.
Google, what time does the sun set in Mo i Rana?
These days, the sun never sets in Mo i Rana. The next sunset is on the 6th of July 2018.
The high north, above the Arctic Circle in Norway, is stunningly beautiful. It is also the most densely populated part of the Arctic. This is because it is relatively mild compared to other parts of the Arctic as a result of the Gulf Stream current that brings warm waters from the south to the north over Norway. But Norway is seeing dramatic warming from climate change just like the rest of the Arctic. The glaciers are receding and the weather is changing. As you hike towards a glacier, you can see the evidence of these changes. The Norwegians have marked how the glacier has receded over time, with signs marking where the glacier used to be. In northern Norway, you also see signs of World War II. The Soviets liberated northern Norway. The weather was unusually warm when we were traveling, at least 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit above the usual. Finally, we journeyed together to Svalbard, or Spitsbergen. Svalbard is at 78 degrees north, well to the north of mainland Europe. I went in May. At the airport, you were greeted by a cartoon that describes safety measures that need to be followed. This is polar bear country. Humans can be polar bear food. You might notice a gun in some of the photos. This is required for polar bear protection anytime you leave the town. In May, the sun never sets. Actually, the sun does not set in Svalbard from mid-April to mid-August, but it was still cold when I was there. Longyearbyen is an old coal mining town. The primary industry is now tourism. The conference I attended demonstrated how the Arctic is a place for international cooperation. At dinner, there was someone from every Arctic country. On my last full day in Svalbard, I took an expedition out onto the sea ice on the eastern side of the island. We saw a polar bear and a seal. We also saw a reindeer. Svalbard is also experiencing dramatic warming. The island now sees more snow as a result of open water where there used to be ice. This snow has led to more danger from avalanches. The reindeer are also suffering because the snow is often covered by a thin layer of ice, blocking their ability to get to the plants they eat under the snow. The Arctic is changing more rapidly than it ever has. Those changes will impact all of us, not just those who live in the Arctic. We are all going to see more extreme weather. Melting glaciers and ice caps will lead to sea level rise, and hotter temperatures may make parts of the planet uninhabitable. We must continue to study what is happening and then work to make actionable solutions to live more sustainably. The Arctic is worth saving. There is no Planet B.